Hey there, this is Mr. Scotty. Getting ready for our bedtime story, and I'm super excited that I get to share this with you guys. Tonight's story is going to be about a man that didn't many people like. They called him a sinner, which is funny because we're all sinners, aren't we? Don't we all make mistakes and do things that we shouldn't? The story starts with Jesus entering a place called Jericho. These days, Jesus had been going around telling parables and performing many, many miracles. The word was spreading about this man named Jesus and the amazing things that he was doing and saying. So it was common when Jesus came to a place that people would rush to him and just everybody would run up to him. Just imagine if a famous person come to our town and was walking through town and down the street. People would run around telling their friends, and everybody would come quickly, and there would be large crowds around this person. This is how it was for Jesus. In this town Jesus was entering lived a man named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in this place and had lots of money. If you heard the word taxes before, it's probably not because people like them. Everyone that works pays taxes to the government and the people that run the city and county that you live in, and the country as the United States. In some countries, taxes help pay for doctor visits, or to make and fix roads, to pay for parks, or to help those who can't work. Taxes, for the most part, help us live better, so they really are a good thing. The problem is that sometimes, and this even happens now and during the times of the Bible, people who got tax money didn't always spend it properly and took some of the money for themselves, which is stealing. So the people from Jericho didn't like Zacchaeus very much, especially because he had lots of money and a big house. They figured he had taken some of the tax money for himself. That's what people was thinking. That's how he got all of his money. So the people from Jericho didn't like Zacchaeus very much. Why? Because he had lots of money. So back to the story. Zacchaeus had heard a commotion and soon realized that Jesus was in Jericho. So he rushed like everyone else to see him. When he got to the crowd, he couldn't see anything. He figured Jesus was in the middle of it somewhere, but standing on his tiptoes, he still couldn't even see Jesus. You probably know what it's like to be shorter than the adults that you're always around. Well, Zacchaeus wasn't very tall for a grown-up and couldn't ask someone to pick him up to see better. That would have been silly. So Zacchaeus saw a sycamore tree in the corner of his eye and decided to climb up so he could see Jesus better. I just wonder if Zacchaeus thought it might be strange for a grown man to climb a tree, especially since he was an important person in government. Whatever he thought, he did it anyway and didn't seem to care. When Jesus reached the spot where Zacchaeus was, he looked up at him and said, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down and welcomed him gladly. Could you imagine what it would be like if Jesus asked to come stay at your house? That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? I wish he'd come to my house and stay sometimes. This would be so cool. First, Jesus knew that Zacchaeus' name without asking him first. So that caught Zacchaeus' eyes right there. He said, well, he knows my name and didn't even have to ask. Second, Jesus didn't care about what other people thought or why other people didn't like Zacchaeus. He wanted to visit his house anyway. Third, Jesus said that he must stay at his house today. That Jesus, it wasn't going to have it any other way. This was part of Jesus' plan that he was going to have to stay at Zacchaeus' house. This means that Jesus knew that God wanted him to go there, and Jesus obeyed. Jesus asked to go to Zacchaeus' house in front of everyone, and soon as they heard this, they all started talking amongst themselves. They were shaking their heads and saying, "He has gone to be with the guests of a sinner." I'm sure that they both knew what people were saying, but Zacchaeus jumped out of the tree and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, Here and now I give half of my money to the poor, and if I have cheated or stole anything from anybody, I will pay it back 4 times. So just right there with Jesus, just being in the presence of Zacchaeus made him realize that he, even though he probably had that money or stole it or got it in an unhonest way, just by Jesus just being in the presence, let Zacchaeus know that he could give it back, and that would please the Lord. He also said, I'm sorry, when Jesus heard this he said, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save what was lost. Jesus meant that he had forgiven his sins, and that even though people didn't think Zacchaeus was good, God loved him too and knew that his heart was good. The very last part Jesus said to Zacchaeus that he was here to save the lost. This was the whole point as why God sent his Son to come to the earth, to find those who didn't know God and were lost, and to show them who God is so they could live forever in heaven with him. And that's just so cool to think about, that God knew everything that was going on, even though that they couldn't see him back during this time, just like we can't now. But he knows that if we're doing wrong or right. But the cool thing is just like right here, Jesus knew that Zacchaeus probably got his money in a bad way, but he came here and he saved him and gave him salvation, just like he does for all of us. Even though we make mistakes sometimes, Jesus loves us, and he's going to allow us to be in his presence in heaven one day. So that's it. And thank y'all, and I hope you all have a good night, and see you soon.